Hey guys, I'm Tim Lynch with Red Dog Bushcraft, and I think I'm going to call this video something about cooking biscuits in a cast iron pan part 2. But I thought I'd go ahead and show some of my other people who enjoy cooking the rest of the meal. And here I have a pack of venison tenderloin from late last year. Got a little bit of olive oil and cooked me up a baked potato. And I'm going to use something that you may not be familiar with. This is mushroom ketchup. I bought this while I was on a trip to Colonial Williamsburg. I think it's pretty good stuff. Very similar to Worcestershire sauce, Lee & Perrins Worcestershire. Can you say that? Where their sauce has a little bit more of a strong peppery type taste. This has a little bit milder and some mushroom flavors to it. I think it's a pretty good type of a sauce, very similar to, like I said, that Lee & Perrins, but I think it pairs, or it will pair very nicely with the venison, so we're going to find out. So to prepare these today, I'm going to take my stuff for my biscuit mix here, and I'm going to set that off to the side, and my coffee also. Pardon me, the wind is blowing about a right good little clip. Of course it blows and starts going right in my face now that I move on this side of the fire. Ain't that always the way it works, especially when you're on video. But look, nothing real fancy here. I fold up my aluminum foil when I'm going camping like this. So just trying to stay in the realm of the same way that I would have it when I was camping. I'm just folding it up for here in the backyard, so that, you know, the whole idea of this cooking in the backyard is, number one, I enjoy it, but number two is to replicate what I'm going to do while we're out camping. So I'm going to take my baked potato, set it in the middle of that. That is 2 pieces of foil thick. And I'm going to pour just a little bit of olive oil over that potato and rub it down. What that does is that helps fry up that outside of that potato. And double wrapping this, and here on the bottom it'll be several layers thick. That's going to help me keep that potato from burning as I set it there beside the fire. The next thing I'm going to do is take my venison out, and for this, because I'm going to use a salt, I'm not going to season this. I have a little seasoning mix that I like to use quite often, and I was actually considering cooking this on a meat fork right beside the fire. But the wind is blowing so much today that to try to regulate my heat and keep this piece of tenderloin from drying out, cooking it on a meat fork would be quite challenging. So instead, just going to open up my foil. I'm going to lay my meat on this foil, a little bit of an angle here, and that's just so I get good coverage when I get ready to wrap it up. I'm actually do it this way. And once again, because venison is such a lean meat, it doesn't have enough fat to cook without burning. So I'm just going to fold this up. I'm making a little pouch. And I like to fold it at least 3 times. That makes sure that I get a good seal in there. And then as my fire continues to burn down, I'm going to pull me some coals up under a rack and set this on top and just let it sit there and heat up. And what it's going to do is start steaming and locking in that moisture because it's inside this bag now. And we'll get that cooked, and we'll get our potato on here in just a few minutes. So let me reposition the camera, and I'll show you the fire and what we've got going on and the cooking method that I'm going to use with this Pathfinder pack grill rack. Stay with me. Okay, so what you see here is my pot hanging up here over the fire, and here in front of the fire I have my Pathfinder grate. And this is just a grate that you can either grill on top of or use it to put pans on. And as my coals here burn down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and pull some of these hot coals out and underneath the edge of this grate. So my fire will stay burning here, but my cooking will be done over here. Now, something that I can do to kind of help me out and start my preheating is I've got my baked potato, and I'm going to go ahead and set that there so it starts to warm. And actually, I'm going to do the same thing with my meat. I'm going to go ahead and set it on the grate close to the fire, but not really cooking yet, but just enough to start getting it up to temperature. As we start burning down our coals, then we'll pull some of that, a little bit of that wood, but mostly coals up underneath the grate. Okay, so let's talk just a minute about a couple of the things that I like to use whenever I'm planning on cooking outside. And these are very important and things that you're going to want to have. I don't use oven mitts or try to wrap pieces of cloth or leather up and handle my pots and work around my fire unless it's all I have to work with. When I go out, I like to plan to cook because a big part of being out is the cooking. That's just something that I enjoy. And to do that effectively, I like to use a pair of, these are just cheap welder's gloves. They're big, they're easy to slip on and off, but they give me enough dexterity that I can handle and work around my fire, and they come far enough up my arms that they protect me well from any embers and sparks and the heat of the fire. Along with whatever I plan on cooking on. Now, sometimes I just use a grate and I set it on a couple of green pieces of wood, and that's my grill top. Sometimes I take this Pathfinder grate and I've got some other methods, some squirrel cookers and some pot hooks and some tripods and trevets that I use. But no matter what you're using, you're going to need something to maintain your fire underneath your cooking. The biggest problem that people have when they're cooking food in the outdoors is they lose their fire, they don't build up enough of a coal bed to begin with, so their food winds up being uncooked. Or they've got too much fire going on and no coal bed, and they wind up burning their food up, and neither one of those is good. So just a long piece of rebar, this one is probably 4 foot long or so, that works real well. And another thing I have is, once again, I was at a thrift store, secondhand store somewhere, and they had a set of fireplace tools, and it came with the little shovel and this and a broom. I don't really use the broom, but this fire poker and the small shovel work really well. They're not too big, so if I'm car camping, it makes a nice set, and as long as I have my hands protected, they seem to do very well for maintaining my campfire and moving my coals around, or even sliding my grates around back and forth over top of the fire. So if you'll get yourself those tools, you'll find that maintaining your fire will be a lot easier than trying to poke it around with sticks and just using things off the cuff. Now, of course, you can do that. Make sure you use the right safety. No hazardous woods. Green sticks tend to work better. Cut them down, find you one with a little notch in it, or carve you a notch or whatever. You can certainly do that. But if you're going to be cooking for any number of people and you want to keep the campcraft down, these are some pretty easy ways to do that. All right, I'll bring you back in a minute once the coals cook down just a little bit more. Got you focused in now right on the fire itself so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about as far as maintaining my fire. Now, I've got my gloves on and I've got my longest poker, and what I'm going to do is just take some of this larger pieces of wood that haven't finished burning up yet, kind of slide them out of the way, grab me some of these hot coals and start raking them forward. Now, this would be a perfect time to use that little shovel. It's a good time to do that. But all you have to do is just rake this stuff up. A couple of these smaller pieces of wood, I can put them under there too, because this ground is cold and it is wet. Remember, I was telling you about the amount of snow that we've had here in the last few days. And then what I'll do is I'll just reposition all of my wood back up so that I've got my sides here. Now I need to walk around to the other side so I can push it up. But the idea you see is that you keep everything nice and tight right in front of where your food is cooking, burning your wood back here in the back, and then pulling what you need up here in the forefront underneath the grate. With this particular grate, you're limited to the height. There's really no adjustment. These legs should be pressed down into the ground so that it's a nice, firm, solid cooking surface. And then we'll move some of this stuff that's burned up a little bit, just keeping it up into a pile so that it burns well. And any wood that we need to add, we'll add back here to the back side. And make sure we don't get too much flame contact right here on our potatoes and our meat. Challenging, but fun. Okay, so you hear that, but I can hear that meat really starting to sizzle. The wind changed direction on me a little bit and started putting a lot of heat right here on this corner. So with these gloves, I can just grab this and pull it back, and I'm going to turn it around, and while I'm there, I'm going to turn my potato. As my heat changes, I change the way my food is sitting on my grate. Once again, because I don't think you can overstress it, importance of just maintaining the hot coals underneath the food. So now you can see we're really getting to that separation that I was talking about earlier, to where the fire is burning here, my hot coals are here, and I shovel it up from here to move it under here as needed. It's all about managing your heat, pretty much like using the knob on your stove. Exactly the same, just, well, totally different. Okay, just a quick shot of our pile of coals back there in the back, and there's our grate where we've moved our coals underneath. You can see our full pack with our venison. Tenderloin is all swelled up. That means it should be cooked. The potato's been cooking longer. We're going to take a chance that that's done. So we're going to go ahead and pull those off now and start plating them up, and we'll get ready for our sauce. Okay, we've got our venison loin pack here. Carefully, I'm going to open up one end and just pour any of that juice into that plate, and then just carefully let that tenderloin fall right down in there. And we're going to take this and check for doneness just by cutting it right through the thickest part. And as you can see, we're good and done there. So I'm going to go ahead and slice this up, and then we'll start our slicing or our saucing and see how it turned out. Alright guys, sorry about that. My battery died, and I don't know exactly where I was. But I took my baked potato up, cut it up. Of course it's done. You check it by sticking your fork in it. If it's not done, you stick it back on the fire. Pretty easy. I took my juice that was inside of the full pack that I cooked the beef tenderloin on, poured that over top of my potato. That's my seasoning. So that takes care of that, and that's pretty daggone good. And then I put just a couple of drops of that mushroom ketchup that I purchased while I was up at Colonial Williamsburg on each piece of the venison. That could actually use just a little bit more. This is a pretty strong sauce, so I didn't want to, you know, just pour it on and have it sitting in the sauce, because I felt like it would overpower the venison. One thing about sauces, you can always add more, but once it's there, it's hard to take it out. So let's try that one more time now. And I'm gonna reach across in front of you. if you didn't catch my other video where we made the biscuit in the frying pan, have a little bit of that to go along with it. Man, venison tenderloin, mushroom ketchup, a baked potato, and bread over the campfire with my coffee. Oh my word, I have forgotten my coffee. I can't do that. I got to end with my coffee. Let's see. Pour me a little bit of that. Got to end with the all around. The whole deal. Well, that was a success, and hopefully here real soon we'll try a few more things out here over the campfire in the backyard in preparations for some spring trips. I hope you enjoyed this little cooking adventure of mine today. I certainly enjoyed having you along with me. I wish you were here to help me enjoy some of this. Until next time, I'm Tim Langston with Red Dog Bushcraft, home of global safety and survival. God bless.